Grand Ole Opry legend Stringbean Akeman and his wife were in their home back in 1973. But this year, their killer, John Brown, became a free man.
For years, fans wondered what really happened to the man with the banjo and the big grin. David Stringbean Akeman was more than just a funny guy in suspenders. He was a country legend. But behind his charm was a dark mystery.
I committed one of the most atrocious crimes ever could be committed.
I don't have any right to ask for forgiveness.
I want him to serve every second of those 198 years. I don't want him to ever breathe another breath.
And now, the truth is finally out, and it's worse than anyone expected. Let's dig in. Early life and influences. But to understand what happened that night, we need to go back to the beginning. Let's look at how a poor farm boy became one of country music's most loved stars. David Akeman, known to everyone as Stringbean, grew up in a small town in Jackson County, Kentucky. He was born in 1915 and raised on a farm during hard times. Life was simple, but it wasn't easy. His family worked hard to make ends meet. They didn't have much, but they had music. David's father played the banjo, and young David quickly fell in love with its sound. He made his first banjo using a shoebox and some string. Later, he traded 2 chickens to get a real one. That banjo became a part of him. Like many kids back then, David didn't go to school for long. He worked to help his family. During the Great Depression, he joined the Civilian Conservation Corps. He built roads and planted trees. These years shaped how he saw the world. He learned to be careful with money. He saw people lose everything, and that left a mark on him. He stopped trusting banks and started keeping his money close. He also had a gift for making people laugh. At local contests, he'd play music and tell jokes. One day, an old-time musician named Asa Martin saw his act and invited him to join his group. Martin couldn't remember David's name, so he called him Stringbeans because of his tall, skinny build. The name stuck, and Stringbean became his stage name. In the early 1940s, Stringbean joined Bill Monroe's band, the Bluegrass Boys. He played the banjo in a style that was smooth and old-timey. He didn't follow trends. He stuck to what he knew and loved. His playing stood out, even though he didn't stay in the band long. After leaving Monroe's group, he teamed up with Grandpa Jones and other country performers. He started playing at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville. The Opry gave him a big platform, and the audience loved him. His mix of music and comedy made people smile. He dressed in baggy pants, long shirts, and suspenders. He looked funny on stage, but it all added to the charm. Stringbean married Estelle Stanfill in 1945. She supported him in everything he did. They were a quiet and loving couple. They didn't have children, but they had a strong bond. In the 1960s, Stringbean started recording albums. His songs had old-style banjo tunes and silly lyrics. He also performed regularly at the Grand Ole Opry. In 1969, his popularity grew even more when he joined the TV show Hee Haw. On the show, he told jokes, read pretend letters from home, and played the banjo. His humor was light and clean. Families across America enjoyed watching him. People liked that Stringbean stayed true to himself. He didn't try to change with the times. He stuck with old-fashioned music and country jokes. His style felt honest and warm. Even after he became famous, Stringbean kept living the same way. He and Estelle lived in a small log cabin in Tennessee. Their home didn't have fancy things. They used a wood stove for heat, raised chickens, and made their meals from scratch. He chopped firewood and wore old clothes. They lived off the land as much as possible. Estelle liked to garden, and Stringbean liked to fish and hunt. They didn't go out much. Most weekends, Stringbean played at the Opry, then came straight home. Because of his experience during the Depression, Stringbean never trusted banks. He carried cash with him and hid money in strange places around the house. Some say he hid it in the chimney, behind bricks, or under the floor. He didn't want anyone knowing where it was. People in town even talked about how he might be hiding thousands of dollars. His routine rarely changed. Every Saturday, he would perform at the Opry. After the show, he would drive home to Estelle. They liked their peaceful life. They didn't need anything fancy. He was loved not just for his music and jokes, but also for his kind nature. Fans felt like they knew him. He stayed close to his roots and never let fame change who he was. This simple life and steady routine made Stringbean happy, but it also made him an easy target for the wrong kind of people. The fatal night. It was a regular Saturday night at the Grand Ole Opry. Stringbean arrived like he always did, wearing his signature outfit and carrying his old banjo. People backstage said he was in a good mood. He laughed, told jokes, and even played a few songs behind the curtain. His wife Estelle was with him. She came to most of his shows. She was quiet, but always smiling and proud of him. The crowd enjoyed the performance that night. Nothing felt strange or out of place. After the show ended, Stringbean and Estelle got in their car and headed home to their log cabin in Ridgetop, Tennessee. They followed their usual routine. The drive was peaceful and the night felt normal. But something terrible was waiting for them. Earlier that night, 2 men had broken into their home. Their names were John Brown and Marvin Brown. They were cousins with a long history of stealing. Both were in their early 20s. People in town knew they were trouble. The Browns had heard talk about Stringbean keeping large amounts of cash inside his cabin. He didn't trust banks and was known to carry money in his pockets. Some folks even said he hid cash inside the walls or under the floor. The cousins wanted that money, so they drove to Ridgetop, broke into the cabin, and waited inside for the couple to come home. They went through drawers, moved things around, and searched the house. They thought they would find something valuable. When Stringbean and Estelle arrived home, they had no idea anyone was inside. Stringbean opened the front door. The Browns were already hiding with their guns ready. The moment he stepped into the cabin, one of them pulled the trigger. The shot hit Stringbean near the doorway, and he collapsed to the floor. Estelle screamed and ran outside. She didn't get far. One of the men chased after her and shot her near their car. She fell in the driveway with her purse still in her hand. It looked like she was trying to escape, or maybe call for help. The next morning, Grandpa Jones came by to meet Stringbean for their usual Sunday hunting trip. When no one answered the door, he checked around the cabin and found their bodies. It was a sight that stayed with him for the rest of his life. The scene shocked everyone. Both Stringbean and Estelle were gone. Their peaceful home had turned into something unthinkable. The worst part? The Browns didn't even find what they came for. They took around $250 from Stringbean's overalls. They also grabbed a few other small items, but most of the money stayed hidden. Some say thousands of dollars were tucked inside walls and behind bricks, never touched. The Browns tried to run, but it didn't take long for the police to catch them. John Brown was given a long prison sentence. Marvin, his cousin, died in jail a few years later. The case became one of the saddest stories in country music history. Stringbean and Estelle lived simple lives. They loved their home, their quiet routine, and each other. They never asked for much. They didn't live like stars. They wanted peace, fresh air, and time together. That night in 1973, everything changed. Two kind people came home from a joyful night and were met with cruelty. Their loss was felt across Tennessee and far beyond. The music world lost a legend, and fans lost someone who made them laugh and smile every week. The deaths shocked everyone who knew them. Now, the hunt for the killers would begin. Investigation and legal proceedings. After the deaths, police in Tennessee worked quickly. It didn't take long before they began to focus on two men, John Brown and his cousin Marvin Brown. Both were from the area. They had records for stealing and causing trouble. They were known by locals and had a bad reputation. Not long after Stringbean and Estelle were killed, the Browns started showing off money. People saw them spending more than usual. They also talked about the crime in a way that felt strange. Some said they even bragged about it. All of this made people suspicious. When the police heard about their behavior, they started looking at them more closely. Investigators followed every lead. They spoke with neighbors and friends of the Browns. They searched for clues and built a case. Within weeks, they had enough information. Both men were arrested. The police found stolen items from the cabin, and one of them even told a friend details that only the killer would know. The evidence pointed straight to them. The case quickly made headlines. Everyone in Nashville and across the country was talking about it. People wanted justice for Stringbean and Estelle. The courtroom was full each day. News crews stood outside. Fans of Stringbean waited to hear what would happen. During the trial, the truth came out. The Browns had planned the crime. They brought guns. They knew Stringbean would be at the Opry that night. They broke into the house and waited for him and Estelle to come home. They didn't plan to leave any witnesses. The jury heard from Grandpa Jones. He gave emotional testimony about what he saw the next morning. His words left a strong impact on everyone in the room. Other friends and musicians also spoke about the fear and heartbreak the deaths caused. The court found both men guilty of key. John Brown was given a sentence of 198 years in prison. Marvin, who played a smaller part, got a lighter sentence but still stayed in prison for many years. He later died behind bars. John stayed in prison too, although he asked for parole in later years. The judge made it clear the punishment fit the crime. He said the death of two kind, peaceful people could not be forgiven. The courtroom was silent as the sentence was read. Families cried. Friends held hands. Everyone felt the weight of that day. The deaths left a deep scar on the country music world. Many fans saw Stringbean as someone who lived a quiet, safe life. He made people laugh. He played music that reminded them of home. His death shocked the entire city of Nashville. People began to worry more about their own safety. Some musicians added locks to their doors. Others started carrying protection or hiring guards. The feeling of safety that once surrounded the Grand Ole Opry and the music community slowly faded. Fans wrote letters and left flowers at the cabin. Some visited the place where the couple had lived, hoping to feel closer to them. Others stayed away, unable to bear the thought of what had happened. Stringbean and Estelle had lived simply. They didn't ask for fame. They wanted peace and time together. Their loss was painful for many people. It changed how the music world looked at fame, safety, and the value of a quiet life. The killers were caught, but the story was far from over. Strange discoveries about hidden money would keep this case alive for decades. The hidden fortune mystery. After the deaths of Stringbean and Estelle, police searched their small log cabin for clues. What they found shocked everyone. Tucked behind the old fireplace chimney and hidden in the walls were bundles of cash. Some bills were even found wrapped in plastic and stuffed into boots. At the time of the deaths, it was estimated that nearly $20,000 was hidden inside the house. That was a large amount of money in the early 1970s. The couple never told anyone how much they had saved, and because of that, no one really knew the full amount. Stringbean had always been careful with money. He grew up during the Great Depression and didn't trust banks. Instead of using savings accounts, he kept his cash close, hidden in the house. He never talked about it much. Estelle likely knew, but even she may not have known every hiding place. After both of them passed, there was no will and no written plan for who would get their things. This made everything more complicated. Not long after news of the hidden cash came out, rumors spread fast. People began to wonder if more money was still inside the cabin. Some said there could be thousands left behind that had never been found. Over the years, many tried to find it. The cabin, which stood quiet and empty, became a target. People broke in and tore through the walls, hoping to uncover hidden bills. Windows were smashed, floors were pulled up. Some even brought metal detectors and tools to search the property. The place that once held happy memories became a spot for treasure hunters. Some were just curious fans. Others were looking for real money. Then, in 1996, something incredible happened. During a renovation of the property, workers found another stash. Hidden in the walls was more than $20,000 in old bills. Most of the cash had been there since the 1960s or early 1970s. Sadly, the money had been sitting in damp, dusty spaces for over 2 decades. The paper was brittle, stained, and stuck together. Banks said it could no longer be used. Even though it couldn't be spent, the discovery brought new interest in the case. People began talking again about how much money Stringbean may have hidden over the years. Some believed there could still be more waiting to be found. Since Stringbean and Estelle had no children, their estate became the center of family talks and legal arguments. Without a will, there were questions about who had the right to claim their land, money, and personal items. In the end, most of their property went to Estelle's side of the family. Her relatives stepped in and handled most of the legal work, but it wasn't easy. There were lawsuits, long talks with lawyers, and plenty of stress for those involved. Many fans felt sad about how things turned out. Stringbean had lived a simple life. He didn't care much about money or fame. He enjoyed playing music, telling jokes, and spending time with Estelle. He didn't want a big estate or a long legal fight. The money he saved wasn't meant for show. It came from a place of fear and caution. He had seen hard times as a child and wanted to make sure he and Estelle were always safe. After all the rumors, break-ins, and court cases, the mystery of Stringbean's hidden fortune remains part of his story. Some believe every dollar has now been found. Others still wonder if more is out there, hidden in a quiet corner of the old cabin, waiting to be discovered. The money mystery added to the pain of losing Stringbean. But the real hurt came from how it changed the people who loved him. Long-term consequences and legacy. The deaths of Stringbean and Estelle hit hard, especially for those who knew them well. Grandpa Jones, one of Stringbean's closest friends, was deeply affected. He was the one who found their bodies early the next morning. He had planned to go hunting with Stringbean that day. Instead, he walked into a terrible scene. That moment stayed with him for the rest of his life. He talked about it in interviews, often with tears in his eyes. Even years later, he said he could not forget what he saw. It haunted him. He lost more than a friend that day. He lost someone he considered family. Other stars in the country music world also felt the loss. Minnie Pearl, Roy Clark, and many others were shocked and heartbroken. Stringbean was part of their world, part of the Opry family. His death did not feel like a news story. It felt personal. The country music community was small and close. They laughed together, toured together, and leaned on each other. Losing Stringbean in such a violent way left a hole in that circle. It was hard for many of them to move on. Before 1973, most country musicians did not worry much about safety. Many left their doors unlocked. They lived in quiet areas, trusting their neighbors and fans. That changed after Stringbean's death. Stars started to think differently. Some added locks and security systems to their homes. Others moved closer to town or hired guards. The easygoing lifestyle many of them enjoyed no longer felt safe. The attack on Stringbean and Estelle showed that being kind and private could still bring danger. Even someone as humble and quiet as Stringbean could become a target. That idea was hard to accept. The event marked the end of an era. For many in Nashville, it felt like the country music world lost its innocence. The trust and comfort that once surrounded the Opry community faded. Safety became a real concern. Newcomers in the industry heard the story and were warned to be careful, to keep their distance, and to protect their homes. Even with all the heartbreak, Stringbean's legacy lived on. In 2001, the Country Music Hall of Fame opened an exhibit honoring him. It shared his music, his outfits, and the story of his life. Visitors could see the long shirts and high pants that made his look famous. They could hear his songs and learn about his deep love for old-time banjo music. Younger musicians often point to Stringbean as a true inspiration. His playing style, known as clawhammer, stayed simple and honest. He never tried to chase trends. He played from the heart. That approach still speaks to artists today who want to stay true to themselves. Stringbean's story became a reminder of what country music used to be, a mix of humor, heart, and hard work. He came from a small town, grew up during hard times, and made people smile with nothing more than a banjo and a good joke. To many fans, Stringbean became a symbol of what it means to stay grounded. He did not live for fame. He did not need fancy things. He cared about his wife, his music, and his quiet life in the hills. Even after his death, people kept talking about his kindness, his honesty, and the way he never changed, even when the spotlight found him. His name still brings warmth to those who remember him. Today, his songs play on old records and country radio stations. His influence continues through the artists he inspired. His memory lives in the stories fans still tell, and in the sound of a banjo played the old-fashioned way. Even as his memory lived on, the case was about to take a shocking turn. What happened next would anger fans all over again. Controversial developments. More than 4 decades after the deaths, the story took another turn. In the year 2014, John Brown, the man found guilty of killing Stringbean and Estelle, was released from prison. He had served a little over 40 years behind bars. This news shocked and upset many people. Country music fans, friends of the Akemans, and fellow musicians spoke out. They believed he should have stayed in prison for the rest of his life. Grandpa Jones, before his own passing, had once said he could never forgive John Brown. Many others felt the same. They remembered how deeply the death story had hurt the entire community. They remembered how carefully planned the crime had been. Even though John had spent many years in prison, he never truly took responsibility for what happened. When asked about the death story, he gave unclear answers. He claimed to have been drunk that night. He also said he couldn't remember many details. He never admitted to pulling the trigger. To some people, that made things worse. They felt that without real remorse, there was no reason to release him. They believed justice meant more than just serving time. It also meant facing the truth and showing sorrow for what was done. When the parole board made its decision, it pointed to his age, behavior in prison, and the amount of time he had served. But to the public, none of that changed what had happened on that cold night in 1973. Even with John Brown out of prison, many questions remain. Some parts of the story still feel unfinished. Over the years, rumors and theories have kept the case alive in the minds of many fans. One of the most common questions is whether there was a third person involved. Some people believe someone else helped plan the robbery or waited nearby while it happened. No evidence ever proved this, but the idea never fully went away. Another mystery is how the killers knew exactly when Stringbean and Estelle would return home. Their schedule was not a secret, but it was also not widely published. Stringbean always played at the Grand Ole Opry on Saturday nights and usually got home around the same time. Still, the Browns seemed to know the exact routine. Some believe someone close to the couple may have shared the information. Others think the Browns watched the house and waited for the right moment. No one ever found a clear answer. There is also the question about the money. When police first searched the cabin, they found several hidden bundles of cash. But was that all of it? Over the years, people have wondered if more money had been taken before the police arrived. The Browns were seen with money shortly after the crime, but the amount they had did not match what was later found in the house. Some say the killers returned before the police came. Others think someone else entered the cabin in the hours after the death. The truth may never be known. With Estelle and Stringbean gone, and Marvin Brown no longer alive, many pieces of the story are lost forever. Still, the case continues to spark debate. Fans keep asking questions. Writers and reporters revisit the story again and again. Each time, they hope to uncover something new. These questions point to something bigger than just a simple robbery. The real meaning of this case goes much deeper than most people realize. The deeper mystery and meaning. The death story of Stringbean and Estelle Akeman was more than a terrible crime. It became a story that symbolized something deeper. In many ways, it was an American tragedy. It felt like a moment where a simple, peaceful way of life was stolen forever. Stringbean had built his life around music, laughter, and love. He never chased fame or money. He wore clothes that looked funny, played banjo with an old-time style, and stayed true to his roots. That kind of life felt honest. It reminded people of a slower, kinder world. Then, out of nowhere, came violence. Two young men decided to rob him for money he had saved through years of careful living. In a single night, all of that trust, peace, and tradition seemed to break. For many people, this case became a turning point. It showed how times were changing. It marked a shift from trusting neighbors to locking doors, from sharing stories on the porch to watching your back. The death story of a beloved country star inside his own home made everyone stop and think. If someone like Stringbean could be targeted, maybe no one was truly safe anymore. It shook the idea that small-town life was always safe and good. That old feeling of decency and neighborly care took a hit that night. Still, when people remember Stringbean, they don't just think about the crime. They remember how he lived. That's where his real legacy sits. He brought joy to others through music and humor. On stage, he smiled wide, told simple jokes, and played the banjo like it was part of his soul. People laughed at his tall shirts and short pants, but they respected the man behind the outfit. Fans loved him because he never tried to be something he wasn't. He stayed the same from the day he joined the Opry to the last show he played. That kind of consistency meant something. It gave people comfort. He and Estelle lived a life many folks admired. A quiet cabin, a garden, chickens in the yard, and warm meals by the fire. They didn't chase trends or fame. They found happiness in each other, in their work, and in simple things. Younger musicians still mention Stringbean as someone they look up to. His style might feel old-fashioned, but his message, "Be yourself, keep it real," still speaks today. He showed that staying true to your roots can touch more hearts than chasing the spotlight. In the years after the death, the case was labeled as solved. The killers were caught, tried, and sentenced. But many people still feel like something is missing. The facts were laid out, yet the deeper questions remain. Even the way the story ended, with one killer dying in prison and the other released decades later, left many feeling unsettled. Justice was served, but peace never truly returned. What did change, though, was the way country stars live. After that night, many performers took their safety more seriously. Locks were added. Homes were upgraded. Security became part of the job. But no matter how much was stolen, the one thing the killers could not take was Stringbean's spirit. His true wealth was never the cash hidden behind a chimney. His real treasure was his gift to others. The music, the laughter, the honesty. That's what people still carry with them. That's what lives on through old recordings, shared memories, and the sound of a banjo played under soft lights on a quiet night. Looking back, this case changed everything about country music. But maybe the most important thing to remember is how Stringbean lived, not how he died. Stringbean's story is more than a tragedy. It's a reminder of a simpler time, a life built on love, music, and staying true to yourself. Though questions remain, his spirit lives on. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives behind the legends.